Hey everyone, Ekman here with another video, and today we have a tier list for the OP06 meta here in North America. It is coming out this next weekend, and honestly, this video is maybe a little bit late, partially because I was out of town for so long, but also because we did get a restriction list for Japan for their OP07 meta. However, there's been no notice if that's going to be affecting us, or when it's going to be affecting us, or if we're getting anything. So this might get just immediately outdated based on some new facts if that ever comes out. But I did want to just go over and do a quick tier list going into the meta as we have it right now. And again, that might change if we do actually get any restrictions with the formal release at the end of this week. So that's what we've got for this one. I've got all of the OP06 leaders, the new Zoro and Sanji leader, and then just a couple of other leaders that have done well, or I expect to do well into this meta as well. So all of these leaders are currently in the game for Japan's meta too. So we don't actually have anything unique for our meta compared to how Japan is. So that's kind of impactful for it too. And that's kind of what we have for it. So my tiers real quick are highly competitive. So this means that I expect it to top pretty much every event that it's part of, if not win. Competitive is I would not be surprised. I kind of expect it to top, but it's okay if it doesn't every once in a while. Highly playable is that it will top every once in a while, but I don't expect it to win or do anything too fantastic. And then fun is just the tier underneath that too. So additionally, if I don't mention a leader by a specific name, it's in the highly playable or lower tier, in my opinion. And that's what we have for it. So we're going to get started with the new leaders, and we're going to go back in time to some of the additional leaders that exist in this game. Some of them are probably still bad, but I know that they have been talked about for a bit, so we're going to go into it. So we're going to start off with Uta, and honestly, I think Uta is a perfect candidate for this fun tier. Honestly, I think it's like the worst red purple leader that we have. I've tried kind of hard to make a list that I'm at least kind of comfortable with, but I just don't have one. It's also why I haven't made a video going over Uta for this channel. I just don't find a reason to play it. I think for like red and purple is a pretty common combination of colors, and I think all the other ones that exist right now just do the same thing but better. So it's going to be here in the fun tier. If you have a list that you kind of believe in, let me know. I just haven't found it personally. So there it is. All right, for Hod Jones, we're going to put this in highly playable. Honestly, Hod does have a really good kind of engine that goes with the deck. The fact that you're able to be like if you're able to find your stuff on curve, you have like a really, really good tempo that's kind of hard for your opponent to deal with. The fact that the leader has some unique mechanics is really neat. I just feel like the cost for his abilities aren't really worth the reward for it all the time, and sometimes that's rough. Though being able to make it so you don't take additional life from like your Hod Jones 7-drop is impactful, because that is a really good card. It honestly just depends if you have enough setup to play Hod Jones on curve and really be able to take advantage of it. So that's kind of how this leader lives and dies. It does have like times where it can get on a really big hot streak, but it just didn't have the consistency that I liked for some of these other leaders. So we're going to put it here in highly playable. Next up, we have Perona. I'm going to put Perona in high in competitive. Perona is really good. It's fantastic for dealing with specifically 4 costs and lower, which I think are running wild in this meta as is. So being able to get that free rest or just free interaction with it is great, especially against stuff like Gecko Mor and Sakazuki, which I think both those leaders are very good at developing 4 drops and lowers, and then don't make as many of the 5 or highers. And even if they do, you still have ways to interact with them with the leader. I think that it's just in a good spot. You are kind of dependent on like chaining Dofis together as well, which is maybe a little bit tricky for it. But I think it's in a good spot. It has some really good matchups in there. Sometimes I feel like I had some bad matchups against yellow specifically, which means that it's kind of held back because that's kind of like the other half of the meta. But I think Perona is in a good spot. I don't know if it's better than Gecko Mor or Sakazuki, because it's kind of in the same kind of like black card pool, but I think it's still in a good spot. And you should definitely try it if you haven't tried Perona yet. Next up, Yamato. I'm going to put Yamato in highly competitive, though. As we'll see, it'll probably be kind of towards the end of highly competitive. It's the new yellow leader, and honestly, it has a lot of good effects. Being able to have double attack on a leader is a little bit insane, and then additionally, being able to get all your effects off for being your opponent at a 3 or less life total, which is very easy if you hit them once with your leader. So I think Yamato is probably a little bit RNG based, but there are just some times where it just wins the game outright. So it's very strong. Its effect to give 2 Dawn to your other cards is great too. And yeah, it's just in a good spot. I think that this deck is very strong. Maybe sometimes lacking consistency for it, but it does have some good matchups, and I do like playing the deck. So we're going to put that in highly competitive. Next up, we have Reiju. We're going to put Reiju probably like the cusp of competitive. I think it's just in a really, really interesting spot where the deck is very good. It's a little bit, it's very pilot centered, which is cool. The fact that there's not a lot of deck building decisions, but there's a lot of different ways to play it. Inherently, you can kind of adjust to what you're playing against. And I think if you want to be kind of like deep diving into one leader, I think Reiju is a leader that will definitely reward you for committing to it so heavily. And it's just a really interesting deck. I'm going to be testing it more myself, but I like the idea of it. It's really unique in a lot of ways, and I think it's a really fun one too. So we're just going to put that in competitive. And then Gecko Mor, we're going to put him in highly competitive. A lot of people thought that he wasn't going to be too good on release because, he's like a worse Don Quixote do Flamingo effect. But honestly, he had such good support in the set that I don't think many people care about it. Obviously, his 8-drop is getting a lot of flack for being one of the strongest cards in the game. And I do agree on it, but he does have a lot of consistency available to him. The fact that you get to play cards from your trash means that you can find the good card for the right spot. Only real tough time is sometimes like if you get Hound Blazed, your pieces, you don't get to like recycle them and get your full value from them. But I think Gecko Mor is in a really good spot in this meta. And I don't know if it's better than Sakazuki or not, but it's really up there and it's going to be very present, I think, in a lot of people. So that is there. And then the Zoro and Sanji leader, we're going to put this in fun as well. I don't know what it is about blue and green, but they just don't get the color combination like that they need. I think there are some good cards from this starter deck that helps out the deck a lot. But I think that the deck in general is just okay as it is. I think other decks can take advantage of it better, and there's not really like I don't find like a reason to play this leader over others. So I'm going to put in fun. I think the starter deck is still a good buy, but I'm going to put it there. All right, and then we have these additional leaders here. I think we have about 12 or maybe closer to 15 going into this one that are just previous leaders that have topped occasionally, have been kind of been like stronger decks into it. Again, if your leader that you like is not on it here, I think it's going to be highly playable or below, but we're just going to go through some thoughts for it. So first, we're going to talk about Useless Kid. We're going to put that in highly playable, but we're going to put Uta kind of in that competitive side here. I think that both these decks are good, and a lot of them they're pretty similar in a lot of ways, to be honest. Uta's a little bit more strict on deck building because you have to be running so many of your film cards. Useless Kid is a little bit more flexible at a cost of maybe consistency at times, but you do get like different cards that you can put in your pool without feeling like you're giving up too much for it. So I think Uta is just better than it right now, but I think both are in a good spot. Like obviously Useless Kid was like the previous film leader, and now Uta's the new one, and it's just good. So this Uta is so good too. Whenever I test like red purple Uta, people think, oh, he's surely testing this green Uta, and I wish I was more times than not, but I am playing the red purple one, so we're gonna leave that there. We've got our red trio of Zoro, Law, and Newgate. Personally, I think with all the removal that's happening in this set, I think that, we're kind of doubling down on how good removal is in a lot of ways and consistency. I think Newgate is in a good spot competitively, but I think the other two of Zoro and Red Green Law are just kind of in this highly playable, especially because like Yellow now has like more removal too, and we have like interactions. It's just kind of in a rough spot for I think Zoro and Law, unfortunately for them. But I think Newgate can still persevere and do very well if just played correctly and played aggressively. Especially I think in these first couple of weeks, if someone decides to play Newgate, people will just forget how to play against it or just have suboptimal lists or lines because there's new leaders. And I think Newgate's going to be like a good leader to take advantage of it. So Zoro, these two could maybe pop up there, but I think we're just kind of evening it out. We're going to leave them in highly playable. We have Arlong, and I'm only mentioning this because I know a lot of people are talking about Arlong because it's another yellow-green leader, and Yamato's getting a lot of praise for like all the cards that we get for that one. I think Arlong is fun, and I've tested it quite a bit, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Yamato is, and I don't think it's just kind of worth playing right now. I don't think there's a build that exists that I like that's better than what I could be doing with Yamato at any given moment, so we're just going to put it on fun. It hasn't really been topping in Japan either, but I just want to mention it because I know a lot of people are talking about it. That's my opinion. I don't want to dissuade anyone from playing it, but I think that it's just worse Yamato in a lot of ways. There are some ways to play it, but I think Yamato is more consistent overall. Talking about consistency, we got our boy Katakuri. We're going to put him all the way up in highly competitive. Yellow has just been doing good consistently, and it got a whole lot of new cards that say trigger, and a lot of them are really good. And Katakuri is like one of the best leaders just generically to take advantage of it. And I'm going to just say, you know what, Anel, we're going to just pop him up there too. Yellow's in a good spot. I don't think that should surprise anyone. I don't know who the best yellow leader is going into this. I'm going to say that probably Nell is kind of more of my playstyle still, but you do kind of run more and more bricks now because you just have so many tempting, juicy cards to play off of it. But yeah, late game scenario now just like never loses, and all of the cards that you keep recycling the life are very good and have triggers or have effects. And Reject is a really good card. There's a reason it's getting banned in OP07, and all three of these decks can really take advantage of it too. So we're going to just leave these here. I think they're all very good. And I don't know which one's going to be the best one overall, but you're going to see all three of these pretty consistently, I think, in the next couple of weeks. Rebecca, because we are talking about, we're going to snook up this Sakazuki here. I don't think Rebecca's viable right now. I think Sakazuki is definitely viable. Is it better than Gecko Moria? Maybe. I haven't done enough testing personally. I think Gecko Mor obviously gets more value as the game goes on, but Sakazuki does have some of its own advantage. The fact also Gecko Moria is great at getting rid of 4 costs is good, and additionally the fact that you're a 5 life leader compared to a 4 life leader that does essentially the same thing in a lot of scenarios. It's going to be difficult to think which one's going to be better between the two of them, but they're going to be very, very present, and they're definitely matchups you have to be careful for. So I think spoilers, the rest of this, I think these are just the top 5 leaders that are going to exist in this game for this meta. It's going to be Sakazuki, Moria, Katakuri, Nell, and Yamato there. So very clear that black and yellow are doing very well into this OP06, but that is there. Next up, we do have our just kind of additional cards here. We're going to go through these real quickly. Queen, man, I really want there to be something for Queen. As like the worst version of Anel, that's still a very good leader. The fact that we also get like the Sanji secret rare that lets you get some additional value off the top of your deck, which is pretty crazy. And it's a 9-cost blue card, which means you can play something off the top of your deck, and then use your Queen ability to attack and gain a life. All of that's really great. Helps out the deck a lot. So I don't know if it needs to be. I don't know if competitive's too high for it. It probably is, but I know a lot of people have been grinding for it, and they've been finding some success. Next up, we have Luffy. You're going to put Luffy here in highly playable. I think this is kind of a shame for it because it started off the meta, in OP05 is one of the best 3, and honestly probably better than it did in Japan based on my quick results. But yeah, the leader I think kind of falls off for this meta, unfortunately for it. It's not in a good spot for it, and it's just like gets outvalued, and like the removal's there, and it can't just kind of put as much pressure. The pressure that you are able to commit isn't as worthwhile as well. Like also Yamato with double attack is very scary for this leader. You have to get rid of all of their leader swings, and I think that's just rough. And like Katakuri, the same kind of stuff. I don't know if you can like Magellan them and like get them off their curve, it's still good. But man, yeah, Purple Luffy I think is just kind of find itself not doing as well as it did in OP06, but maybe we're wrong, but that's kind of what my thoughts are. Talking about a Purple Luffy, we got Red Purple Luffy. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's needed. It's not going to have as good of a showing that it did in OP05, and honestly in OP05 it was like top 10 leaders, but I don't think it cracked the top 5. There were like some times where it got like an additional good top here and there, but like consistently it just wasn't there. I didn't think it was in a good spot, so we're gonna leave it there. And then lastly, we're gonna have Law and Nami here in highly playable. Nami is always going to be like somewhere viable, especially if we have like these grindier, like longer games. But also Yamato like really loves attacking into Nami because you get like that double damage pretty easily. Stuff like Enel and Katakuri might be a little bit slower, especially since you want them to hit your life and they never will. So that's something that could be impactful. But I think Moria and Sakazuki is just really good at getting rid of like your Kayas and stuff, as well as being able to establish these bodies on board that can start hitting you every turn. It's just good for them as well. So, and then Red Purple Trafalgar Law, you do get some like new tools in this one. Specifically, the Reiju 4-drop is fantastic. The fact that it lets you draw cards when you're behind on Dawn, which is very consistent for you. And you do get like another card of like a 1-drop that minus 3k in the set. So all of it's good. Laws like gets some good support for the deck, but it's kind of like unofficial support, and it's just all right. So I don't think it could be any better than competitive. We're gonna put in highly playable. Nah, we'll to even it out. even out. We'll put it at the bottom end of competitive. These Queen and Law are probably like on a borderline as it is, but we're going to leave it there. So those are kind of all the leaders that I wanted to talk about for this video. We're going to go over again real quick for anyone who just skipped to the end here. I don't think anyone's really going to contest this. These are the top 5 leaders in this game right now. Sakazuki, Gecko Mor, Katakuri, and Nell and Yamato. I think Uta's in a good spot, but not quite at the same level. Reiju, Perona, and Newgate, I think these are actually kind of in the competitive tier. There's going to probably, if I wanted to do it again, I'd probably have like a little like in between where I think I'd probably put Queen, Trafalgar Law, and probably like Nami and Purple Luffy, to be honest. They're kind of like in a middling tier between like competitive and like playable, but I didn't do that, so that's where it is. Hod Jones is fine. I think it's better than people are saying it is, but that's not really saying a lot. Kid, Law, and Zoro, the big 3, or some of the big 3 from the first set, they're still around, but they're not obviously as on top of the meta as they could be. I think that Useless Kid is just kind of, Uta's just a better copy of it. Whitebeard probably performs better than Zoro. I could probably be wrong about this one, but that's where I'm putting it here. And then Law, there's just too much removal for you to be able to get rid of your effects off as much as you want to. And that's pretty tough for the deck. And then any of these other ones, if these get a top 16, I think that's very impressive. I don't expect them to do it for any of this meta, but that's kind of where that is there. So this is my video. Again, pretty quick and through it, but I did want to make a tier list going over OP06 before we get it here in North America. And honestly, I'm excited for a new meta, and I hope you guys are as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.